Hello and welcome back to another episode of Game Chat. This is Brunner. I got Lee here with me, and thank you for coming from the shorts. This is a Game Chat podcast where we talk about multiple things, a variety of things. I think we should get personal in this episode, and let's start off with Elite. Elite, you've been in the market for a new car.
Yes, yes. So my daughter passed her driving test, and
Shout
so
out.
we're like, "Oh, geez!" Shout out to Andy Banani. So first try too. She was like super impressed and like she was super nervous, and she literally got it first try. Parallel parked like a champ, the whole nine. So we're like, okay, so we got to get her a car. So me and my wife talked about it in depth, and we're like, hey, I'm not going to buy a $30,000 car for somebody who's 16 years old and just got their license. So we said, which you laugh, but that's not uncommon in the town that we're in.
Yeah.
It's literally, you drive out of the high school, you'll see BMWs, Mercedes, Land Rovers, Range Rovers. It's ridiculous. So for the past year, Anna keeps throwing cars that she wants. She's like, oh, I want a smart car. I want this. I want that. She's like, oh, I want a car that, I don't give a shit. I want a car. It's like all banged up already. And I'm like, I'm not getting you a banged up, beat up car. So we start looking. And then I said to my wife, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing private sale. We've gotten burned on private sales on less expensive cars in the past. I said, I'm going to a dealership. So we take a Saturday, and anybody who knows me knows there's nothing in the world I hate more than buying a car. Okay. I hardly ever use financing. So I already have the cash. It should be like buying a bottle of soda. You go in, you figure what you want, give them the cash, you should walk out. This should not be a 6-hour ordeal. Nothing drives me nuttier than this. And so, long story short, we found something we kind of liked after a couple things, and so I go to the dealership, and they got a trade in for a Honda Fit. You ever seen a Honda Fit? And I'll look one up while I'm talking, but it's like a perfect little car for a 16-year-old kid to like get around and just like go to practices and whatnot, et cetera, so forth. And so that's a Honda Fit. So it's a little four-door little car, just like a little bit bigger than a Prius, but not a ton bit bigger than a Prius, So good little car. So we go see it, and they wanted, I think it was $6,999. And so I test drive it, and the person who owned it prior had a dog. And so the emergency brake had a pull up emergency brake, and they had like chewed the emergency brake all up. So it had like a bunch of like chew marks on it. And I'm like, whatever, it's cosmetic. It's, I took it for the test drive, drove it, and I'm like, okay, it's a $30 part. Our mechanic can throw one in. It's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And there was one other thing that we're like, okay, it's a $10 part. Our mechanic can throw it in. No big deal.
Right.
The car would have had to been detailed because there was like dog hair and stuff, because the person just traded it in. They probably would have cleaned it, but whatever. So, okay, we come back, and I start the whole process of the negotiation, yada, yada, yada. Right. And basically, I end up putting a deposit on the car. I got them down to $5,000 out the door. That includes sales tax, includes document fees, everything, $5,000. She's like, well, it has to be inspected because we haven't inspected you yet. And I'm like, okay, that's strange. You took a car and trade, gave somebody money, but never looked at the car.
Mm-hmm.
I've never in my life had that happen. They put it up on a lift and shit while you're trying to trade a car in. It's why I stopped trading cars in. Right? Long story short, a neighbor about 4 doors down, a couple days after we look at our Honda Fit, has a gray Honda Fit sitting in their yard with the same dealership plate. Now, the dealership we went and looked at was a Toyota dealer. They don't sell Hondas. There was a trade-in. And then I get a phone call that day, and the dealer's like, yeah, sorry, the frame was rusted. We can't sell you the car. And so the only thing I think to myself is somebody came in and they said, "Yeah, we'll buy it for the 7,000," and they basically cut us out of the deal because we negotiated out a price.
Mhm.
And so now we're at square one with cars again. So that's my latest car story because it's been a nightmare. Because like right now, the used car market sucks. Like
Yeah.
it sucks to find a used car, and I don't know. So we're, but I also said it's working out fine because my wife only works a mile from here, so Anna's been dropping her off and using her car, and it's been working out okay because I don't want to rush into a bad, you don't want to rush into a multi-$1,000 decision and end up pissing you off. So yeah, I heard you had a similar story.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, I have a new car. It's been a year in the making. I don't know where to start from the year. But I'll say I'll go quickly. Um, we weren't originally going to get this new car. Well, I say new. It's 2 years old, but it's new to us, and we got it because I would say March of 2022. My dad was running errands, driving, and then a car smacked into him, and it wasn't it wasn't my dad's fault. My dad wasn't severely injured or anything, thank God. But it was a intersection, and then the guy was making a left turn at the intersection, and he didn't yield, so he smashed straight into my dad,
Oh,
and hard enough where my dad drove a Toyota Camry. He smacked my dad so hard, like the Camry wheels bent, like,
wow.
and then it pushed the Camry onto the curb. So the car was totaled. And then not only that, the guy wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So he was severely injured and he had to be taken to the hospital. And apparently I didn't know this, but my dad was talking to the cop who was there on the scene. He was like, my family's here now. Can I go home? He's like, can I get my statement and then go home? And he's like, no, we have to wait for not CSI, but whatever crime scene unit, because apparently if somebody
They
yeah,
rebuild
if
the
somebody is
accident.
injured in
Yeah,
an accident and it has been
yeah.
taken to the hospital, then you have to wait for them to like do their thing. So like I think a month or two goes by, and then we get the official statement from the police. We get the police report, and the officer or the first officer on scene and the crime scene unit people determined that it was the other party's fault. So my dad says, "Okay, let's get a lawyer. Let's sue, not let sue him individually, but let's get some
His
money from
insurance
his
company.
insurance." Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it took them like forever. We got like 5 grand for his Camry. I mean, but I miss that Camry. God bless that Camry. That Camry could go 500,000 miles.
Oh,
And
dude, they're unbreakable.
yeah,
Well, unless you get head on, apparently.
yeah, and but like it took like we started this whole process in March, and then by September we finally got money from the guy's insurance who didn't even have full coverage to begin with. He only had a collision.
So he's
And
screwed because his car's probably totaled too, and he has
his
no.
car was more drivable. His car was like the front end was smashed because I saw, like, I think it was his brother came to the scene, and then he was able to drive his car into, like, my dad, well, not my dad, but they crashed in front of a Circle K. So the guy drove the car into the Circle K, but you couldn't even drive the Camry.
But he knows a guy probably like Anthony does, where the guy will like do all the body work for $10.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And then so I think like it took us like 4 months. We got I know progressive. God, I hate them so much
that's
because
my insurance company.
first of all, like it was so like they're like, oh, here's here's the name of the representative who's handling our case. And like we would call her like 10 times a day and she would never answer the phone. And then one time I actually got through to her and then like the line disconnected. And then like I would call 10 times a day and then my mom would call 10 times a day herself too. So we called 20 times a day and the woman would pick up the phone. And then one time I was able to get through to her. I think we got disconnected for the second time, but I remember I got through to her and then like I put my dad through the line. Like I put him on like I connected the call. So all three of us were in the call. And then so I mentioned that because I'm gonna bring it up again. And then so she's like, okay, I'll start working on the case and blah 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 and this and that. We're still waiting on this and that. And then the final time we called her, my dad's like, hey, my dad gets through to her. He's like, hey, you know, I've been trying to call you. And she's like, yeah, I'm so sorry. You know, we're so busy here. And then she's like, I'm so glad that, you know, this is our first time speaking on the phone. And then my dad's like, no, it's not. And I was because my dad had the phone speaker. And I'm like, no, it's not. And then we recognized the woman's voice. It was the same woman's voice. And my dad's like, no, this isn't the first time we called you. We called you another time. So Progressive just sketched to begin with. And then they gave us an offer 6 months later after the accident. And they wanted us to sell at 8,500. But my dad knew. So our plan is that my dad was going to use my car, the one that I bought. He's going to use that as his car, and then the money we get, we're going to get another car for me. And then so my dad's like, let's try and get 10,000, like 1,500 more. So you know, so I told the lawyer later, I'm like, can you squeeze out 1,500 because this has been such an incident for us. And then my dad had back issues, and he had to go to physical therapy for a month. And then I'm like, this is, taking such a big toll on our lives. And now I'm like, and not only is it the other party's fault, the police officer said it was the other party's fault, and the crime scene unit said it was the other party's fault. So can we please have another 1,500? And then so months go, like another couple months go by, and they're like, no, they don't want to budge. They're like, do you want to take it to court? And then so my dad's like, you know what, we need the money because we need another vehicle. And like, let's just take the money.
Would it cost you more money too? The lawyer's going to get, the only people who get paid then is the lawyer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Once you go to court.
So the lawyer took a cut.
Of course he did.
Yeah. So we got $5,000 out of it. I mean, but
that blows my mind. So he walks away with $3,500, almost and he didn't get hurt at all. That's some BS, dude. It's. How's your dad doing? Is his back still hurting him at all?
No, he's fine now. But I mean, it was just BS to begin with.
Because Karen, years ago, I don't know, geez, when we were first dating, so Karen had to be like 22 years old. She got in a bad car accident where somebody ran a red light and hit her. And so she was driving the work van. And so we never saw a bill from it, but they paid for her PT for her back for about a year. She went. She still to this day has back problems. Like she still has pain every once in a while, like something will tweak and it's the exact same pain. So it's like something like partially pinched a nerve or something. But really what's crazy is, again, I know your dad had kind of an amazing life, so he probably wouldn't have this, but Karen, she's really had no trauma in her life. You know what I'm saying? Nothing really in her life, but she has like PTSD. Like to this day, like she drives, if you get close to another car, she starts to tense up and stuff. I mean, and that's, Jesus, 20 something years later, man. There's a lot that goes into a car accident. That's some scary shit, man. That's some scary shit. Hence that's the reason Jack doesn't have his license, is he's afraid of other people on the road, man. And I can't really blame him.
My mom has PTSD too, because I think it was in 2021. She was driving. This was when my brother was living in Utah. She was taking a trip there. She had the kids because they dropped the kids off with us, and so it was like, okay, time to take them back now. And they were like, I would say like the bottom of Utah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then so they weren't even there yet. They were just barely in Utah. And then so they're pulling out a gas station, and then so they're behind this U-Haul truck, and then the U-Haul truck just backs into them and smashes their front bumper.
Jesus, dude. I think I remember that now that you say that, but it's dude, I'll tell you a funny story. Oh my god. You just reminded me of U-Haul truck. So when me and Karen bought our first house where we in the town we live in now, we were living in another state, and so I rented this big ass like truck, like U-Haul truck, like damn thing's a tractor trailer truck, right? But it didn't have like the trailer didn't move. It was like a straight body. So I drove it to the house, parked it in the driveway. And we're gonna load this shit up. Well, I went to back it up, and I didn't know that my mother-in-law parked her car behind me. So I felt like some resistance, and I was like, "Oh, it must be the curb." Gave it gas. Literally drove over the front of her car. Like drove over the front of her, totaled her car, my mother-in-law's car, and she was just like, she was kind of chill about it, but not really chill. Like I ruined her car. It was kind of funny, but yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's kind of funny. But that's why U-Haul. I think they got to be a little bit more careful who they give licenses to. Who these big trucks to. You know, it's crazy. So, so you went and bought a new car. It
Yeah,
took you a year to
so
buy.
yeah, it took us a year to get it. So we had like 9,500 like after everything, and then we saved like for my paycheck, and then my dad would put money into it. We put in like me and my dad like $7,000 of our own money, so we had $17,000. And so of course, my luck, all this time during this whole like waiting for the lawyers thing, my dad's like, go on Craigslist, because when we got our BMW, dealerships would list it on Craigslist,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's not like a lot of good cars here, although we have a shit ton of used dealerships. Like they're all in poor condition, like interior wise.
Oh yeah, they're all COVID cars. We know
Yeah.
about those.
And then so like the second like a paycheck comes in the mail, like everything's off the market now. Like we would always keep our like, oh, we're like, we have these three cars. If we get, if everything comes into play, we'll hit up these three people, see if we can work out a deal. And of course everything's off the market. And then at first I wanted like one of those FJ cruisers, a Toyota FJ cruiser.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted for a long time. I just know I wanted an SUV. And then finally we're like, okay, Forerunner. We're like, I'll do a Forerunner. And so and then so the funniest thing is that what was it, two 3 episodes back, I talked about the worst movie ever that I saw in the theater. And on the way there I saw a dealership, an Enterprise dealership, and I'm like, let me see what they have on inventory. And then so um before we went to Enterprise, we saw there was another local dealership nearby, and they had a Forerunner. I remember it was a black 2017 Toyota Forerunner. It had like 80,000 miles on it. And then so we're like, oh, let's go see it, because there weren't like any Forerunners in El Paso, and not even at the big Toyota dealership that we have. Like all they had was like a 2022, 2023 for like 64,000, like fresh out the factory. And we're like, they don't have anything used. So we go to this dealership, and we see, the Forerunner, and my dad test drives it. But when we open the Forerunner, we see that it is horrible inside. Like there are scratches everywhere. The roof, the roof carpet, the ceiling was
The lining.
stained.
Yeah.
Some of the seats were stained, and it has Forerunners. They have like a handle on the passenger side, for you to climb in, and it was loose and everything.
Did it have a sunroof?
No sunroof.
Okay.
Some
Usually
Forerunners,
when that's stained like that on the liner, it means it's got a leak in the sunroof or moonroof.
no, like it's all carpet, and it's like if somebody ate something and then like wiped their hands on it.
Oh, that's gross. That's gross.
Yeah, and then so my dad's like, we like, and it drove nice. My dad's like, it just needs new brakes and the alignment fixed. And then we spoke to the guys at the dealership. We're like, hey, we have the money cash right now. They and I remember too, they wanted $30,000 for it. And my dad says, we have half now, or we have 17 now. We could put 17 down, and you can finance the rest. And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, of course. My dad says, we'll get it if you can, if you can do some work on the interior. And he's like, yeah, we'll do work on the interior. We'll fix all the stuff that's there. And then, you can decide if you want to move forward. We're like, okay. And then so he's like, give us a couple of days and then come back down. So like a week passes by. Me and my mom go down. They didn't do anything to it.
Oh,
And if they did, like, it's still there. Because he's like, yeah, well, we can get some of those scratches out and then we can clean the roof. The roof was still messy. This roof was still dirty. And
that's
then
crazy.
we're like, we almost got it because we're like, I'm like, we can just, pay to get it cleaned ourselves too. And then, I'm thinking all the possibilities in my head.
Though, but the suck part about it, this is what pisses me off is even when you're looking at a $5,000 car, or in your case, you're looking at a 17,000 plus car, they act like it's $3. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nothing pisses me off more than that's why I hate dealerships is they don't want to, dude, $20,000 for a car is expensive, especially for, a 20 something year old person. That's a lot of money. That's going to be that car you bought is the largest investment you've ever bought in your life. It's not like it's your first house or anything. You know what I'm saying? And they act like, oh, whatever. You should be happy to have something. And it's like, it's bologna and cheese, man. I hate that. Hate it.
And then so I'm like, okay, let's go look at the Enterprise dealership again. Because it says they have like stuff in their inventory, but it's out of state. And I'm like, maybe we can do a deal here and then fly over and get the vehicle. So me and my dad were like, on my dad's lunch break, he's like, let's go down the dealership. Let's go to the Enterprise dealership. And so we go down there. I originally looked at, it was like a 2019 4Runner. It was gray and it was only like 2-wheel drive. And then when we get there, on the way there, I see that the vehicle has been sold because it's not on the website anymore. I'm like, oh, great. But I'm like, let's just see what else they have in stock. What's in their inventory? And then so, we're looking for through their inventory. And then the nice woman, shout out her, who we gave her the sale, but like she was trying to sell us on this like 2016 4Runner. It was all gross from Austin. And we're like, and I'm like, and I see a nice red 4Runner. It's a 2021 red 4Runner. I said, what about that one? And then she's like, oh, let me go see it. And then I'm like, can me and my dad talk for a little bit? She's like, yeah, sure. And so I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm like, if we're going to go all in on this, if we're going to put money down, let's just go all in. I mean, it's a really nice car. We need the vehicle because like at that time, like the BMW was having problems. So it was in the shop for like 2 weeks. So like we only had one car between the three of us.
That sucks.
And so I'm like, we need a vehicle. And he's like, let's do it. Let's go all in. And then she's like, okay, put, I'll like, and then we found out that we had to pay, it was in, I think, Sacramento. And we had to pay like $1,800 for them
bring it to you
to transport it here.
Yeah.
And then we're like, is there any wiggle room? She's like, no.
No, she's just paying for the guy to put it on the truck. There's
yeah, that's it. And then she's like, if you want to hold it, if you don't want anybody to touch it, then you have to pay for the the fee to move it. And so we're like, can we think about it? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so
couldn't you just buy it in Texas and go pick it up there and drive it back?
No, we couldn't do that because we had to do the paperwork there. Like we couldn't go do the paperwork here and then go over to Sacramento or Nebraska or wherever it was and do it because Enterprise hasn't learned about DocuSign yet. So we're like,
Oh
okay,
yeah, that makes sense. And plus, you also would have paid if you bought it there out of state. You would have to pay a sales tax because you guys don't have a sales tax, correct?
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
and then so my dad's like, okay, we'll do it. We'll pay the 1,800. So we call her before they close, and we put the money down. And then she's like, oh, and then she calls me 2 weeks later, and she's like, hi, just let you know that they're gonna, it's like the money has been like in processing, and they're gonna move on it soon. And so we're like, okay. So another week goes by, and we haven't heard anything.
That's so weird. Why is it taking them so long?
Yeah. And so we call her and we're like, hey, what's going on with the vehicle? And she's like, oh, um, it- we haven't reached out to you because we found out that they sold the vehicle already. The vehicle has been sold. And we're like, what? I'm like, we put $1,800 down. I'm like, you guys convinced us. You're like, you need to put the money down so that, you can hold it. And, you guys kept convincing us. And we're like, okay, we'll do it. And then you told us the car sold.
Oh
And she's like, yeah, we're
Jesus.
so sorry. We're working on it. And then this and then she's like, if you want, you can get your deposit back, or you can keep, or we can have us keep it and then apply it to another car. And then so we're like, oh, just keep it for right now. And then so, like I think 2 months go by, and me and my mom were checking the website, and we would see something pop up, and then we call and be like, hey, can you check on this car? Can you check on this Forerunner? And these Forerunners were like selling, like they were selling crazy. Like people were just buying up Forerunners for whatever reason. And then so finally, um like in late January, we she's like, oh, we're so close right now on this one, like in Las Cruces, and it wouldn't cost us anything to move it, and you'd get your deposit back. And then she's like, it's a gray Forerunner and this and that. And then I'm not a fan of gray. I'm like, if I'm going to be paying $17,000, $15,000, I'm like, I want it to be a color of my choice. I'm like, I'm gonna have this thing for a long time. I'm not
Right.
gonna settle for, a car color. And we're like, no, don't do it. And then so finally, she's like, we find one, I think in Nebraska. And then she's like, and we told her, we're like, we'll move on. And it was a 2021, exact same thing we wanted. It was a 2021 Toyota 4Runner, 4-wheel drive, uh, and a third row seat. And we told her, we're like, move on it, see if you can hold it. And sure enough, we got it. And then she's like, okay, just letting you know, we got it. It's on the truck, and then it'll be there in a week or two. And then like 4 days go by, and she's like, I get a call, hey, it's here.
Oh, sweet. So you got it earlier
Yeah,
than you thought.
yeah. And so we got it, and then it took us like an additional 2 hours to get to do the paperwork just to get the keys. And then I remember too is when we put the 1,800 down on the first Forerunner. My mom was like, "Oh, let's go out to Chili's and celebrate, that you're getting a new car." And then my mom was like, "Okay, let's go out to Chili's again and celebrate that you finally have that the car's here now."
And do you guys
And
have
then
temporary plates in Texas?
we have temporary plates.
Yeah, they don't have
And
them in Massachusetts.
that's weird.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah. And then and it just took us like an additional 3 hours of paperwork, but we
It's the
finally
worst.
got it.
It's the friggin' worst, man. It's literally the worst. And it's even what's funnier is I've gone into buying cars. I've bought in cars where I've literally had, here you go. Here's cut you out a check for the amount and have like zero financing. I financed cars, and I have also taken cars. Like last time I bought a car, I went to my personal bank and took out a loan from my bank, and they were like, the check was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my lifetime. It said up to $100,000. So my credit line was up to 100 grand. I did not buy $100,000 car. I think it was like 68. And so I even those they take like 3 hours to do freaking. I don't understand. Like it's like I don't understand. Like I could see if you had to like work with a bank and the lender and like you know what I'm saying, but why is it taking so long when I'm handing you freaking cash? I don't understand. I hate buying cars. I hate it. It's an unnecessary evil, but that's why I love the idea of like I love the idea of Carvana where they don't have like you just buy it online and there's no like dickering of price or anything. And it's I like that idea, but then I've heard there's like a bunch of bad shit about them.
We also tried like CarMax and Carvana
Yeah,
and Vroom, and like they wanted like 2019 Forerunner for like $38,000, and I'm like, but this one,
that's a lot of money.
yeah, I'm like this one's a 2021, and then they want like $30,000 for it.
Even 30 is a lot of money when you think about it. Like it's like I don't
But it's
know.
2 years old. I'm like it's 2 years old. I'm like when I'm done paying this thing off, like it's still gonna be less than 10 years old.
Well,
So
it's interesting too. Is like with cars. Like I finally it took me years to figure it out, but like I've owned a lot of cars in my life. I've bought in a lot of cars in my life, and I will no longer buy a brand new car. I'll buy only a 2-year car coming off a lease, and to go into enterprise. Those are car rentals.
mhm.
And they keep up with them, et cetera, so forth. You know they're in good shape. You know what I'm saying? And I'll buy a car coming off of lease that has 30,000 miles on it after 2 years. Let somebody else pay the depreciation because the reality is you buy that brand new beautiful car that with 0 miles, well 12 miles on it, and you pull it off the dealership, you just lost 10%. You know, and it's crazy. I'll show you the car I want to buy. I'll show you what I ideally in a perfect world, if I could find one, I will. This is what I want. And it's kind of a, I think it's kind of like on the lines of what you were kind of looking for. That's what I would love to have. Do you see that? That's the 70. I think it's a 76 Bronco. But I think that'd be so cool to have. But now, 4-wheel drive, you bought 4-wheel drive. Do you ever take your car off road?
No, I haven't. Because again, like I've had the car for about a month now, so I'm like I'm still like, don't touch it. You can't have anything in here.
You gonna like put like all trick it out and stuff and like make it like a desert buggy?
I want to right now. I need like those steps. They're called running boards. I need like a
Yeah,
running
yeah.
board to hop into the vehicle right now,
Are
and
you too
like those
short?
things are like crazy expensive.
You should get like on the excursion that a buddy of mine had an excursion and his like when the car doors closed, they sucked them up, and then when they opened, it went automatically came down. They were pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And that's yeah, like we have like a big place that sells like stuff like that. And for that they want like 1,800. And
You
that's
gonna
not
get
even
some light
including
gonna get some light cages for your headlights. Get a
yeah,
little push
yeah, I want
bar.
to like get additional I've seen like because like there are people bunch of people drive forerunners around here and they'll have like additional lights on like the
Yeah, yeah.
grill. So like I want to get lights on the grill and that's like another $50. And then I want like there's but I've been upgrading my vehicle. Like I bought car seat covers for them because they were cloth. So I got some good leather cloth seats. Not I got some good leather seat covers for them, and then I just bought covers for like the door handles, and then I bought covers for the infotainment, the screen, and then I've been doing all that. I just need like 5 more things, and then I'm done
You do. You should do
putting
is
more
that you should
money into
go
my car.
on to what the hell's the name of that place? Oh, the car mat place. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm pulling a blank. I bought a pair of mats. I bought this place and they make custom mats. They're freaking awesome, dude. And you should put one in the bed of your car, like in the trunk of your car, and then like the floor mats.
Mhm.
They're so awesome. Like if anything spills, they're grooved and stuff, so like it doesn't get on, like it doesn't leave the mat. It's yeah, they're pretty good.
Mhm.
They're
And
that's
then
crazy.
what I remember too about that local dealership
WeatherTech.
Toyota, the 2017, is that I remember the trunk was also scratched, like the backing, like the interior of the trunk, like if they were like hauling stuff. because like the back was
No,
all
that's because
scratched
somebody
up,
tried to fight their way out of it, dude. They were
and
literally.
then there was a sticker there too. And then my dad's like, I told my dad, I'm like, what's that sticker? He's like, oh, that means they've taken this thing across the border. It's a border inspection sticker. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like,
Human
that's why I don't like
trafficking.
I'm like, that's why I don't like these local dealerships, because like they treat, like they're selling these cars, but they treat it like it's their personal errand car. Like they'll go get McDonald's and then like eat fries and then
Dude, I
see
hate that
stuff.
with dealers, man. They'll put the dealer plate on it and drive it all around, take it home at night. Like, I know a buddy of ours used to own car dealerships. Dude's never owned a car. He just takes a different car from the dealership every night. I'm like, what the flip? I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, he had like a guy trade in a Viper. Dude, that Viper was in my buddy's yard for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's why I hate. That's why I hate dealerships. But Enterprise is more professional, where like I don't think their employees can do that. But
Nah, I don't think they can. But I think
but
they just every 2 years they get rid of them. That's
yeah,
what they do. They just move them out of the fleet, which makes sense.
yeah, but
I mean, they don't
I'm
want to
happy.
deal with headaches.
Yeah, I'm happy we have this car. Um, I'm happy I have it. She's a lot. I named her Pearl after the horror movie, because she's a star. But like she's a big vehicle, and I had never driven anything that big before, because like the BMW was a mid-sized car, like a
Yeah.
little bit of those crossover SUVs.
Well, you had an X5, right?
I have an X3.
X3. Okay. Yeah, the X5 is a little bit bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, but she drives nice. I'm taking care of her. I've gotten a cover. If there's a cover for it, I've basically bought almost every cover that's possible. So I'm going to take care of this car.
I would too. You're paying 30 grand.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
then
crazy to me, dude. When
yeah,
I bought my Volkswagen GTI years ago, I had a GTI. It was a special edition GTI. I think it was like $32,000 for a freaking Volkswagen. It's so expensive cars. Like I was thinking about buying a truck. You're like $50,000 for a truck now. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. What's Anthony driving? Has he got a car yet? Did he get a replacement car?
I have no idea. I know. Yeah, car payment sucks. Made my first car payment. Ugh, it hurt. And then especially when I went to the bank, I'm like, I need a cashier's, because they told me you need to get cashier's check. But I wanted to walk in there with cash. What I mean, give him $15K in cash and tell the bank, give me all ones and for $15,000.
Give me all quarters.
Yeah, give me nickels. I need nickels.
Bring a wheelbarrow in of pennies. Here you go.
Yeah. But like it hurt when I got cashier's check. It was just like a large piece of paper saying $15,000.
Yeah.
And then I'm like a year in the making just for like a little piece of paper. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. Wait till you buy your first house and you have to do that.
Yeah.
And then you see the cashier's check that you give them where they hold in escrow. And you're like, oh, here's $150,000. And it's just a piece of paper. One day your bank account's at 200,000. The next day it's at 50.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have nothing to show for it because you're still waiting to close on the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst.
It hurt. And then thank God that I told you guys about it, because there was an incident, but she tries Enterprise try to sell us on insurance plans. Like they're like, oh, do you want like a low jack and then whatever and this and that. And so I just got like the second plan, which is it covers some engine parts and it has unlimited tire replacement. So if you run over a nail, if you run over anything in the road, they'll
That's
replace
pretty
it for
awesome.
you. All you have to do is make a claim. And I'm so glad I did that, because in less than a month of owning it, my mom ran over a nail and the whole tire had to be replaced. And I'm so glad, because those tires are huge. And I imagine if we didn't have
They're
that,
expensive.
it'd probably be $250 just for one tire.
At least you can go up to like $400 a tire for those cars. Yeah. It's yeah.
And I pay full. I mean, that's why also I'm looking for a new job too, because I'm paying full coverage plus a car payment for that thing. Oh, hurts my wallet.
Yeah, but it can't be that bad.
$200 for full coverage.
That's not bad.
Yeah, but when you're making $12 an hour, it's kind of bad.
It's funny is that when we added Anna, 16-year-old girl, to ours, it only raised ours like $30 a month, so it wasn't too bad. Now we add another car, it'd probably go up a little bit more, but it's probably the difference of where I'm at and where you're at. You know what I'm saying? Is you probably have a lot more. Dude, I'll tell you a crazy car story real quickly. Karen's dad, my father-in-law, bought a brand new car. They moved to Florida. He retired, and he was like, "Oh, I want to buy a really nice luxury car." So we went and bought a luxury car. Right? It was a brand new Mitsubishi Diamante. It was beautiful car, like. And so he's starting to head down to Florida because they bought a house in Florida. So they sold their house up here. They're going down there. Going down the road, a tractor trailer truck threw a lug off of a tire, went through his window and out the back window, like almost hit. It was like they heard the buzz. They thought they were getting shot at. Okay. So they kept driving about a mile, 2 miles, because they were like, oh my God, I'm getting the hell out of here. And then they luckily, found out they had to get both the windshield and the rear window replaced, like with less than like 2 weeks old in the car. Freaking crazy. Luckily their insurance covered it, but it's crazy. Cars are weird.
Before it goes, is there anything you want to say, promote, shout out, anything you've been playing, anything you've been reading, anything you've been watching?
New season of Yellow Jackets came out. I'm one episode in. Looks good. I would say that's good. And then that's pretty much about it.
I want to give a shout out to
the 4K version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 4K version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. It's awesome.
All right.
Sorry.
I also want to give a shout out to The Bear. It's a TV show on Hulu. Really good. It's about a chef who was the best. I think he was a sous chef. He was the sous chef, the best restaurant like in the entire world. And then he has to go back home because his brother died, and he took over his restaurant. The restaurant has a lot of debt, and they're all. It's a deli. It's not like a big restaurant. It's like a mom and pop deli. And then so the place has a lot of debt, and he's struggling with everything too. Very good show. You should go check it out. No, fuck Cocaine Bear. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, for listening. Give us a follow on the socials. You don't have to follow us individually, but if you can, but at least follow the channel on Instagram at Game Chat Pod. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/@GameChatPod. Thank you, Ali, for being here, even though you had to push through it, because I know you weren't there mentally. But thanks anyway. And we'll see you guys in the next one.